live. Boy, that was quick. Oh my gosh. I had to get my coffee. Matt said, we got about 15 seconds. And I didn't realize that I didn't have my Just Jones Java. So anyway, let's see. I need to hand my phone back to Matt. So because, it might go off in the middle of the show. Anyway, we are live. If you hadn't figured that out, anytime something's this crazy, but we need to move that, don't we? I'll move it. There you go. We have people in the studio, and we had another chair there just blocking their way. So, you've joined us on the Blue Plate Special. I'm Andy Andrews, and it's kind of a rainy, windy day. Is it raining out there yet? Not really yet. Just kind of looks like it's going to rain. But Heather Olson, hey, in Utah. Shelley Hess from British Columbia. Marcy Crosser-Taylor, high winds in Pasco, Washington, 60s today. And so, did you love the professional notice this morning? Eric Brooker is awesome. He was in the studio last week, and so we had a great time talking to Eric. Deanna Kilpatrick, hey, on this beautiful rainy afternoon. Irene Robinson from Oak Grove, Louisiana, the #1 LSU fan in America. That's you, Irene. Judith DeWitt, love the shirt. You like the shirt? This shirt is, as you know, from $100 Lifestyles. And there's, Chris Comer said he loves the picture of Adam back there with the shark. Brave young man. Yes, he is. I thought you were saying something about the shirt and something on the back. No, this is on the front. Christy Woods, my sister. Yes, it is windy here today. Not as windy as it is in Chicago, but I understand that there was a time, one day, that it stopped. The wind stopped blowing in Chicago, and everybody fell down. Marcy Crosser-Taylor. You know what? I do need to do another salty mug. So I just got on to Jimmy Erie. Jimmy sent me something. I said, yeah, that's great. And I'll do a salty mug. In the studio we have Reggie and Marilyn Hallman from McCalla, Alabama. Hey. And we have Barbara, Ronnie, and Sky Hallman from Greensboro, Alabama. And as I understand, both of you named Hallman, both groups from Alabama, but until you got here today, you did not know each other? Oh my gosh. This is like your long-lost aunt and uncle here, Oh my gosh, I have a family reunion right here. Dave Chapman, hey, from Clinton, Indiana. Joy Walker, love the conversation with Eric. I enjoyed talking to Eric too. That was a good thing. Doug Snyder, Doug is in Iowa. Maryland Brake. Is it Brake or Brakey? From Durham, North Carolina. Yes. Johnny Hall. Yes. LSU basketball players, 11 have chosen to leave by transfer. 11 LSU basketball players? I was shocked that there were Georgia football players that transferred after this last year. I mean, you win a national championship and you transfer, you go to another team, and they were starters. What the heck? Marilyn Brakey, I met you at Fanfare a long time back in the 80s. Yep. Boy, that was a long time ago. Fanfare. We used to call that the polyester flood. Yep. Everybody had to wear polyester to go to Fanfare. Irene Robertson, hope to see you in August. What's happening in August? See, I'm always a little suspicious of anything Irene tells me. She's always trying to LSU me or something. She sent, her preacher was here like a week or so ago in the studio audience, and And Irene said, hey, I'm sending a gift to you and like this. And I'm thinking, oh, great. And it's like LSU season tickets that are framed when Nick Saban was their coach, because she didn't want it anymore. And she thought I would want it. You know, I appreciate it, but I don't understand Louisiana's enmity for Nick Saban. I mean, you know, you've won 2 national championships in the past 50 years, and he brought you one of them, and you don't like him? I mean, I think I'd like him. And I think that I mean, he left there. He didn't leave there and go to Alabama. He left there and went to the Miami Dolphins. And who among us, if we're making $10 a year and somebody offers us $10 million a year, who is not going to go? I mean, come on, Irene, come on. We also have Ada Ruth and Dev Iris from Michigan. From Michigan. What part of Michigan are you from? Right here? Where? Down? Okay. Gotcha. All right. North of Canada, though. Do you go south and go to Canada from where y'all are? That's so funny to me. Brenda Thompson, Broadfoot. Hey, Andy, I met you in Florence, Alabama at the Shoals Save a Life banquet. Wow. Do you know the last time I did that, I went right from there to the hospital with a kidney stone. I did that Shoals Save a Life banquet. And the guy who is now your state senator came up to me afterwards and he said, hey, how are you doing? I said, I'm fine. He said, no, I can tell that you're in pain. And he is a doctor. And I said, well, I am kind of in pain. I've got a kidney stone. And so he said, well, come on, let's take you to the hospital. And I'm like, seriously? And he said, yeah, I'll get you right in. We'll take care of that. Well, they didn't take care of it immediately, but, you know, anything was better. He like saved my life, you know. When I had this neck thing, they kept asking me, they would say, what is your level of pain on a scale of 1 to 10? And I would say 8.5, and I have had kidney stones, so I know what a 10 is. And I do. Oh my gosh. I've had kidney stones like 30 times. Really only 5 times, but the pain equals 30 times. If you've never had a kidney stone, just consider yourself fortunate. I don't want to be alive that much. Not that much. Oh my gosh. Donald and Evelyn Perry from Belleville, Ontario, Canada. And we have a great show for you today. This show has taken a couple of weeks of preparation for me. I do odd research, and so sometimes the things I find fall into a category that they don't really fit anywhere. I mean, you know, we'll have theme shows, we'll have theme blue plates where we do some history things about a certain thing. We'll do something on music. We'll do something on popular songs in the 70s. We'll do this, but occasionally I will find this information that really doesn't fit anywhere. So I put it in my odd fact file. And so I remember on the Andy Griffith Show one time, you know, Barney was telling Andy, you know, he was big dogging it and telling Andy, you know, this. And Andy said, you've been reading again, ain't you? And Barney said, well, yeah, reading my book, Odd Facts Known by Few. And so that's what we're going to call today's shows, Odd Facts Known by Few. Jen Andrews says, I love your randomness. Well, you know, this is me embracing my inner ADD. Irene Robertson said, no, going pro. Him going pro didn't bother me. So when he decided to get back in college, he went to Alabama. You know how the Alabama-LSU rivalry is. On with an awesome show. See, there's Irene's getting her last word out, and then on with an awesome show. Yeah, okay. No, it didn't bother me. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. These are odd facts known by few. According to a study by the National Journal, 55% of people polled said that they thought they were smarter than the average American, while 35% thought that they were only just as smart as everyone else. So when you think about it, 55% think that they're smarter than the average American, which means that the average American thinks he's smarter than the average American. When you think about it. I mean, that's just the way. All right. Get this. According to Newsweek magazine, 45% of Americans think that ghosts are real. Okay, so what do y'all think? Let's just take a poll here, the studio audience. How many of you think that ghosts are real? Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, everybody but you, dude. Everybody, and I don't know how to vote. I don't know how to vote. I mean, I believe in the Holy Ghost, but I don't believe in Casper the Friendly Ghost. You know, I guess it depends on what kind of ghost. What about you, Matt?
Man, that's one of those things I feel like I change depending on my mood. Some days I'm believing them, some days I don't. Today I don't.
You know, there's...
Just like some days I believe in myself, some days I don't.
I love ghost stories. Who stole my golden arm? You remember that? And ghost stories about... let's combine several. A girl who has a golden arm, who's dressed in a prom dress on the side of the road with a hook on her other arm. How about that? That combines 30 different ghost stories that I grew up with. All right, roller coasters were invented to distract Americans from sin. How about that? In the 1880s, hosiery businessman Lamarcus Thompson hated that Americans were tempted by hedonistic places like saloons and brothels. Lil M, do you know what brothel means? You do. Okay, I guess that's not a 70s word. It's like an 1870s word. Okay, so he hated that Americans were tempted by saloons and brothels, so he set out to straighten up one of the most immoral places he could think of, Coney Island in New York. It was just a den of sin. And so he built America's first roller coaster to distract people from sin.
You think it worked?
I'm not thinking it worked. I think people just started drinking on roller coasters, you know. Okay, now this is a cool one. I found out how popsicles were invented. So this was in 1905, and an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson left soda powder and water outside overnight with the wooden stirrer still in the cup. And the mixture had frozen in the chilly nighttime weather. And so the Epsicle was born. And he sold this treat around his neighborhood and at a nearby amusement park, Coney Island, sold them on the roller coaster probably, and even patented the recipe. So years later, though, he changed the name of it to Popsicle because that's what his kids called their Pop's concoction. So he called it Popsicle. All right, now, this next odd fact known by few, I think is going to have everybody moving. Let's just see here. You ready for this? It is impossible to hum while holding your nose. Go ahead, try it. Go ahead. I never knew that was impossible. Hub. Can you do it, man? Hub. Hub. Evidently, it's not impossible to hub while holding your nose. It's just impossible to hum. Every continent except Antarctica has at least one McDonald's. Popsicles could have a franchise on Antarctica.
They could.
You know, here's an odd fact known by few about McDonald's. It's kind of gross, but in the Philippines, McDonald's serves spaghetti. That just seems gross to me. I don't know. Why would that just that just seems bad to me. Doesn't it? Doesn't that seem nasty? I mean, I like spaghetti. I don't mind McDonald's, but McDonald's spaghetti. It's like I wasn't into it when McDonald's sold pizza either.
Yeah.
You remember Sinbad, the comedian?
Oh, yeah.
His real name is David Atkins. I knew Sinbad when I was doing college because I hadn't seen him in years. But he had a McDonald's commercial that he ad-libbed a thing when they were filming it, and it was for McRibs. And he said, they're for a limited time. I thought they said, lend me a dime, but they're really for a limited time. And they kept it on commercial. But spaghetti. Ugh. That might be interesting to do a little research on what odd things McDonald's sell around. You know, in Hawaii, they have a Spam McMuffin. Totally serious. Aaron Kelbfeld says that in Japan, McDonald's serves sushi. Well, you know, in Hawaii, they're big on sushi. I don't know if it's a World War II thing, a carryover from World War II, but they're big on sushi. And they have Egg McMuffins with Spam at the McDonald's in Hawaii. And you can also see Spam sushis. I mean, sushi. I guess it wouldn't be sushis. But in the grocery store, Spam made into sushi.
Honestly, sounds like something my wife would make.
Does it really?
She likes Spam. She likes coming up with different things. I'll eat it. I'll never pick it out, but she would make Spam sushi for sure.
You know, Polly likes Spam. What the heck is wrong with them?
I don't know.
I mean, like Spam, that's like a step up from potted meat. It's kind of like firmed up potted meat, which I suppose is what Vienna sausages are. You know what they make Vienna sausages out of, don't you? What they scrape up off the floor when they get through making potted meat. Oh, have we skipped anything, Matt?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Wait, go up a little more. A little more. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I thought, okay, and this is a real good one to me. Because when I read it, my mind went 10 different directions. And it's a very simple, odd fact, known by few. And it is this. In the wild, dolphins call each other by name. Now, you know where my mind went when I saw that?
Flipper.
No, not Flipper. But the fact is that in the wild, dolphins call each other by name. And I would think the rest of that would be at SeaWorld, they just call each other buddy. In the wild, they call each other by name. But at SeaWorld, they can't remember each other, so they just call each other, hey buddy, and hey man, you know. But here's another odd fact known by few is even though in the wild, dolphins call each other by name, the most popular dolphin name is Frank. That's like just letting you know. Frank. Kevin Tim Perkins. Yeah, Souse. I forgot about Souse. Now, you guys are from Alabama. You know what Souse is. Don't stare at me like that. Come on. You know what Souse is, don't you? Some people call it hogshead cheese, but it's not really cheese. It's just made out of the parts of a pig that I think nobody would probably eat unless they made it into sauce. But it's like compressed and spiced meat. Brian Foods makes it. Up here, Farm Fresh Meats. Chuck Childress up here makes sauce. My daddy used to eat sauce. He would soak it in vinegar and cut it into chunks and eat it on saltine crackers. And as God is my witness, I was at, Polly and I were at the White House one time for Bush 1, George Herbert Walker Bush, and in the Blue Room they had a layout of food, and I was talking to Colin Powell, and I looked there on the table, and there was sauce. There was other things, but there was definitely sauce on the table in the White House. Yeah, and they use all different kind of pig parts. Kevin says they use everything but the squeal. And it's not really appetizing. It's kind of gray. It's kind of gray meat with some like gel in between it. So it's not really appetizing, but I told Polly, I said, I am eating some of this just so for the rest of my life I can tell people, yeah, I had sauce at the White House. What do they serve at the White House? Sauce. But people call it hogshead cheese, but it's not really cheese. Speaking of cheese, do you know what the most shoplifted food in the world is? Cheese. Who'd have figured? Why would that be? There's other things that are that shape that would be easy to steal. I guess easy to steal.
I guess because most stores have cheese and it's small and are usually small. I don't know.
We need to get Benny to tell us what's the most shoplifted item out of Publix.
Limes.
Limes. I wonder if it would be cheese. But according to all the information that I've gotten, the most shoplifted food in the world is cheese. Do you know what the most shoplifted book in the world is? The Bible. I guess they're taking it home so they can look up that thou shalt not steal part, I suppose. It's like, I'll take it back. Yeah, right. You know what the most shoplifted item in the world is? Designer clothes. I couldn't tell what designer. But once I got on the shoplifting kick, I decided I would like look up different stores to see what was the most shoplifted item in convenience stores is candy bars. That would be an age thing, I'm thinking. The most shoplifted item in Bass Pro Shops, ammunition. And you think about it, Bass Pro, they keep their ammunition out. And so maybe that's why there's not any available for the rest of us. In Target, the most shoplifted item is You want to know? You got a guess? Cosmetics. Cosmetics in Target. Patricia Hopp says that her grandson loves cheese slices a lot, that he would probably shoplift them, of course, but he knows that's wrong. He has shoplifted them from the refrigerator at your house and hidden the wrappers in his room, hadn't he? Yeah. Okay. You need to tell him to steal a Bible next time and look at that Ten Commandments part. So, stealing from his grandmama. Oh, yep. A lot of bang for the buck at Bass Pro, Kevin says. Okay, now, here is my ultimate shoplifting story that I found. And this is a recent story. A woman has been arrested in San Francisco for stealing more than $40,000 of merchandise during 120 visits to a Target store in San Francisco over a 13-month period. Aziza Graves was charged with 8 felony counts of grand theft and 120 misdemeanor counts of theft in connection with items taken from the store between October 2020 to November 2021. Now, evidently, this shoplifting thing has gotten out of hand in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because another retailer out there, Walgreens, has closed 5 locations in San Francisco due to rampant shoplifting. And this is what the San Francisco Chronicle is reporting. But I love this Aziza woman who's stolen $40,000 worth of stuff from one Target in 120 trips to the Target. I love what the San Francisco police chief, Bill Scott, said. He said, "This should send a strong message to would-be shoplifters that their lawless conduct won't be tolerated in San Francisco." It seems to me like they're tolerating it pretty good. I mean, it seems like they tolerated it for 120 trips into Target. Yeah, this should send a strong message that after your 120th time, we're going to get you. Okay, here's another odd fact known by few. I thought this was great. Now, this is right up my alley. I mean, if I had thought of this, I would have done this. The Baseball Hall of Fame. You know where the Baseball Hall of Fame is? In Cooperstown, New York. It had a secret inductee in 1988. They had an addition to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it was made without anybody knowing, because a bar owner visiting the hall slipped a photograph of his father in a baseball cap into one of the glass cases. And the photo remained in the Hall of Fame for over 6 years before being discovered. I think this is great. You get your dad. Yeah, my dad's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Really? Yeah, he is. He is. I think that's great. You know, there was an electrician. Now, I'm going to tell you this story, and this is a true story. Okay, this is true. I'm not making this up. This happened probably 15, 20 years ago. And so the statute of limitations is out on it. But it's kind of like slipping your dad's picture in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But I met a guy, he was an electrician. And he was kind of emotional when he met me. Now, that's not uncommon. I don't know why people are sometimes emotional around me, but sometimes they come up to me and cry. And this guy was pretty emotional. And he said, can I tell you something? And I said, absolutely. He said, you know, my daddy died 6 months ago. Now, this guy was probably 55, 60 years old, okay? And so I'm not making fun of the guy or that his daddy died. I guess I'm just telling you a story that might allow you to make fun of him. I don't know. This is just funny to me, what he did and how it happened. But he told me, he said, my daddy died 6 months ago, and we had him cremated. And I took my daddy's ashes, and after work, one night, I drove to Tuscaloosa. And I got there about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I pulled up to Bryant-Denny Stadium. And I got out the car, and I had my bolt cutters with me. I was at the gate. But when I pushed on the gate opened. I didn't have to cut the chain. I didn't have to cut the locks at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And I walked out on the field, and I seen some guys down the other end. There's 3 guys. And when they seen me, they started walking toward me. And so I started walking faster, and they started walking faster, and we met right at the middle of the field, right on the 50-yard line, right on that big A. And they said, can I help you? Can we help you, sir? And I said, well, I got my daddy's ashes here, and I'm fixing to spread them on this 50-yard line. And the only question I got is to whether we're going to have to fight for me to do it. And he said, they took off their caps, and they let me spread my dad's ashes on the 50-yard line. Now, I think that's awesome. I mean, I think that's awesome. But I also wonder how many ashes are spread out there. I mean, there's a lot of people that would want to do that. I mean, it just makes me wonder how many ashes are spread, you know, at Bryant-Denny Stadium or at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Now, I don't think anybody cares enough about LSU to spread their ashes out on the LSU field, but Alabama and Auburn field, I could see them doing that.
I can hear SB cracking up from here.
You know what I mean, Irene? Yeah. I don't think anybody's spreading them on LSU's field. Okay, all right. Let's keep going. Milk wagons. Now I got to tell you, I'll get these facts, and sometimes this one doesn't. This one is a great fact, but it seems like a BS fact. It seems like a fact that somebody would have made up, and then just waited to see if everybody would believe it. I'm just saying before I even lay the fact out there. Milk wagons are the reason why we have roadway lines. And these lines in the middle of the road were thought of first by a man who saw dots of milk spilling out from a moving milk wagon. And these lines are considered to be the most important traffic safety device ever. Now that makes sense in a kind of a way, but also I think if you pour milk on a road, would it look white? I don't know. If you pour ashes in the middle of Bryant-Denny Stadium, would they show up? I don't know. I mean, you see the players, the players getting up after a tackle, and they're doing this. Is that guy sitting home going, they're dusting off Daddy? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, here's one. I don't know if I should include this. This seems kind of gross to me too. But it seems so true that I could not include it when I found this. The average adult in America spends more time on the toilet than they do exercising. And this study I read said that on average, an adult will spend over 3 hours a week on the toilet, but only 1.5 hours exercising. Three hours a week? I mean, you know. What are these people reading? But I'm just thinking, 3 hours. And now I believe they spend more time on the toilet than they do exercising. But number one, I don't believe many people spend 3 hours a week on the toilet. And I don't believe many people spend 1.5 hours exercising. So maybe it's time to start working out in the bathroom. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to find out about this one. I'm going to start asking some people about this one. But according to a study about beliefs, 7% of American adults believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. 7%? Now, I did the math on this, okay? And that may not seem like a lot, okay? But if 7% of Americans believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows, that is 16.4 million Americans believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. I wonder how many of them believe that butter comes from buttermilk. I don't know. My mama used to say, isn't it amazing that a brown cow will eat green grass and give white milk under a blue sky? That was my mama. Now, I must admit, on this next odd fact known by few, I must admit that I admit embarrassment for not figuring this out, because this seems so obvious, but I wonder if you guys knew this. Movie trailers were originally shown after the movie. They were first introduced in the 19 teens, 13, 14, and with silent movies. But they were shown after the movie, which is why they're called trailers. They were trailers. But modern marketing now says it's more efficient for trailers to play before a film rather than after, which is why you have to go to a movie and sit through 45 minutes of movie trailers. But I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't figure out the trailer afterward. I just never thought about it, I guess. The average American spends 2.5 days annually, a total time period of 2.5 days annually looking for lost items. I believe that. This statistic comes from one of the nation's largest independent lost and found surveys. The most commonly misplaced items are phones, keys, wallet, purse, and remotes. And I totally believe that. How many times have I said to you, where's my phone? I mean,
Today?
where's my shoes? Yeah. I mean, at least 2.5 days.
I'd have to think that archaeologists skew that number way higher than it is because they're
Yeah.
looking for something all year.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Okay, get this. More monopoly money is printed annually than actual money.
That blows my mind.
The U.S. government prints around 974 million annually to replace old money. However, the company behind the board game prints over $30 billion in fake money annually around the world. That's just amazing. Kangaroos never stop growing. Who would have figured that? Kangaroos never stop growing. From birth, they continue to grow until they die. I had an aunt like that. Same thing. Took her out in a piano case. Okay, the stage before frostbite is known as frost nip. And I've never heard that used before. And I guess the stage before frost nip is frost nibble. Have you got frost nip? No, it's frost nibble. Be careful, that can turn into frostbite. Okay, now I loved this one because this one just brings up a whole lot of weird visuals to me. There is a psychological disease called boanthropy, or boanthropy. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Boanthropy. 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 And people who suffer from boanthropy believe they are a cow, and they try to live their life as a cow. That's just pretty ridiculous. And they get in the road and get out of their fences. Okay, there is a company, we were talking about cremation a while ago, there is a company that turns dead bodies into ocean reefs. For those who romanticize a burial at sea, there's a company called Eternal Reefs, and it offers this innovative solution. It mixes the cremated remains of a person with concrete to create what they call a pearl, onto which loved ones can etch personal messages, put handprints, or cement mementos in there, and the pearl is then encased in a reef ball, supposedly with other people, that is dropped into the sea, where it provides a new habitat for fish and other sea life, helping encourage a vibrant ecosystem. Now, you know, around here, we sink reefs. You can go along Canal Road right out here, and if you look to the right, if you're going toward Gulf Shores, you'll see these big concrete triangles, pyramids. And we sink those out in the Gulf for snapper. And then, you know, there's a company here that does that, and you go out with them, and they don't have any GPS on their boat, and they drop them where you tell them to, and then you mark them with your GPS on your boat, and you're the one who has the numbers for that. I always thought that, and those numbers are jealously guarded, I always thought that if I got cremated, that I could have my ashes mixed in with the concrete to make one of those pyramids, and then whoever was nice enough to me during my lifetime, I could leave the numbers in my will. It had to be nice to me though, and we could all go out, and you could catch some snapper off of Andy. All right, here we go. And another death one. The inventor of the Pringles can is now buried in one. In 1966, Frederick Bauer developed this idea for Procter & Gamble to uniformly stack chips inside a can instead of tossing them in a bag. And he was so proud of his invention that he wanted to take it to the grave, literally. He communicated his burial wishes to his family, and when he died at age 89, his children stopped at Walgreens on the way to the funeral home to buy his burial can. And they did have one decision to make, though. They briefly debated what flavor to use, but they decided on the original. Oh, Daddy. Oh, my gosh. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, get this. I think this, I knew about this, but I had forgotten about it. Autographs are life insurance. They have been used as life insurance. And nobody knew about this for a good while, but the Apollo 11 bunch that was going to the moon, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, they're going to the moon and could not get any life insurance. I mean, it was considered so dangerous that nobody would insure their lives. And so they obviously faced the very real chance they wouldn't return from the moon and would leave their families without financial support, because astronauts are technically in the military and there's not a ton of money there. And so due to this extreme danger they were about to face, they came out with the idea to sign hundreds of autographs before they left that their families would have been able to sell if they didn't make it home. And luckily, those life insurance autographs weren't needed, but they still show up in space memorabilia auctions today, and they sell for as much as $30,000 a piece. Wow. Cindy Ziegler Oates says Pringles will never taste the same. Boy, you got that right. Cindy is Zig's daughter. Yep. Pringles will never taste the same. Whew. Edie Orr says, bury me in a Pringle can. Only if you can be shaped and stacked. Is this my last one, Matt?
I think.
Is
yes.
this my last odd fact known by few? Because this is my favorite one. All right, y'all ready for this? Remember the Terminator movie? Remember, it was a series of movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. Well, when they were casting that movie, it got down to two guys that they were choosing. It was James Cameron, who eventually made Titanic, and he was a nobody filmmaker at the time. Actually sold the rights to that movie for $1 so that he could be the director of the movie. And it made his career, but still the movie made like $1.7 billion over time. But they had it down to two guys. It was down to Arnold Schwarzenegger and O.J. Simpson. And they went with Schwarzenegger because they said Simpson was too nice a guy and nobody would ever believe him as a bad guy. How about that? Well, how times change. This is why, Cindy Ziegler Oates just said something nice about me, but thank you for saying that. And you know how much I love your dad and your mom. And you and your sister, but not your brother. I love Tom too. Yeah. Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed our Odd Facts show today. We could probably come up with some more of these. I had somebody send me an odd fact. Marcy Crosser Taylor said, OJ would have killed it. Yeah, he would have. I had somebody send me an odd fact the other day. Do you remember Bob Gibson, the pitcher for the Cardinals? Remember Bob Gibson? Big guy, and he was, man, the fastballs were just, I mean, he would rock back, and these fastballs was like 200 miles an hour or something. I don't know. But he was dangerous. And he was one of these pitchers that was kind of mad. You know, he was like a mad pitcher. He, you know, like some of them were just easygoing, but he was kind of mad when he pitched. And the last pitch that he threw in his career, a guy named Pete Lecoq jacked it over the fence for a grand slam. The last pitch he threw in his career, that Bob Gibson threw in his career. Now, fast forward more than a decade. You know where I'm going with this? More than a decade, Bob Gibson was pitching in an old-timers game. And Pete Lecoq came up to the plate in an old-timers game. Both of them been retired for years and years and years. And Bob Gibson hit him with pitch. First pitch, just hit him. I mean, man, no mercy, no mercy. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate you being here with us. We're going to see you Thursday, and it will be on the wisdomharbor.com site exclusively. So if you haven't joined, please join this. The cost for Wisdom Harbor for an entire month is less than a gallon of gas. So, I mean, come on, join. You got so much with Wisdom Harbor. And we'll see you Thursday. Bye-bye.